You're not, as a leader, you're not there to be liked.
Yeah. You will lose passion by time when you're tired. When you do 100 hours a week, you won't feel the passion. So with passion, you won't do anything. You need the passion and the drive.
Just because you're good, it doesn't mean you're going to get the job. But some people can't handle that. Some people are very insecure. But you're not here to please everybody either.
Ooh, I like that a lot. Welcome to the She Word Women in Business edition. Conversations that women rarely have, but really should. I'm your host, Helen Chorley, investment banker turned angel investor. And this is the all-new series of Women in Business, where we will be shining a light on those topics in the workplace that we need to talk about more. Today, we will be talking to 3 trailblazing women, forging their own paths and successful careers, and sharing how they did that, the ups, the downs, and most importantly, the lessons. But before we dive into that, if you are an existing She Word fan, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching and sharing. If you are new here, welcome. To make sure you don't miss out on any content, please follow us across our channels. Like, subscribe, follow across Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and of course, YouTube. And if you are a Patreon subscriber, a very special thank you to you. You are, of course, seeing this before anybody else. And by being a subscriber, you are making a difference to the lives of women who need guidance and support through our partnership with the Richmond Foundation. Inspirational. It can be an overused word, but today, I think it's really appropriate because our guests are making waves, changing the paradigms of the sectors they work in and showing everybody what's really possible for women. They really are trailblazers, and let me introduce you to them. I'm so excited about this episode. Nadia Pace is a non-executive director at Blue Rock Operations Limited and Arms. She is also a non-executive chairperson at Studio 7 and an executive mentor at her own company. Having been a CEO herself, leading companies through restructuring whilst occupying myriad director roles, her frank, down-to-earth approach sets her clients on the right path to success. She describes herself as a strong advocate for innovation and business transformation and has a passion in mentoring business leaders and companies. And Nadia, I especially liked this bit on your website. You said, "I often now find myself the only woman in a boardroom. I would like to have other women join me here." So you very much have an inclusive style of leadership. We are delighted to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here.
And our next guest, when researching the statistics for our next guest, I discovered that on average, a quarter of chefs are women, but only 6% reach the very top. And I'm delighted, we are so lucky to have one of them here with us today. You will know her from MasterChef here in Malta, but Letizia Vella's culinary career began very early on, nurtured by her family's love and respect for quality and tradition. After completing her studies at Malta's Culinary Institute, her culinary repertoire flourished during an internship under Chef Heston Blumenthal, nonetheless, at the Fat Duck restaurant in England, followed by dinner by Heston as a Chef de Partie. She went on to develop her passion for cooking in other refined restaurants in Malta, followed by opening her very own The Golden Fork in 2019. And that's where we actually met, Letizia, wasn't it? I was on a date at your lovely restaurant last year.
Yes,
so
we
I'm
did.
absolutely delighted to have you here and to share your story.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Our final guest is Charlotte Sant Portanier. She is the CEO for Malta Healthcare Caterers Limited, Healthmark and Core Group, employing more than 4,200 staff. Wow. Over almost 2 decades, she worked in 8 hospitals in Australia and Malta, gaining extensive experience in hospital pharmacy, leadership and administration. She occupied a range of managerial posts within the healthcare industry. Charlotte holds an undergraduate degree in pharmacy, a postgraduate diploma in clinical pharmacy, and an MBA from Henley Business School. Welcome, Charlotte.
Thank you, Helen. It's a pleasure.
Why is it that it can feel like some careers have been silently reserved for men? Of course, there are a number of industries that are predominantly dominated by women, nursing, administration, teaching, for example. But in this day and age, women should not and will not be constrained to these sectors alone. There are certain women who are fighting back, pioneering the path to equality for future generations, and today we have 3 of them here. We are sharing their stories of changing the business, cuisine, and pharmaceutical and healthcare industries for the better. Of the 2,286 Michelin-starred restaurants, 6% are led by women, and 6.73% of the world's best 100 restaurants have a female head chef. While the proportion of women on the boards of the largest publicly listed companies reached 30% in EU member states, women only account for 9.9% of board members here in Malta. According to data from Women in STEM Workforce, 45% of science professionals in Big Pharma are female, which is considerably higher than in many other sectors. However, when you get to senior leadership level positions, this number plummets and is depressingly low. Of the 10 pharmaceutical companies in the US, for example, only 1 has a female CEO. So that's why this topic today is so important. It's so important to share the inspiring stories of the ladies at this table. So Letizia, let's start with you. You embarked on a sector that, as we've heard, there are few women at the top of. At the moment, let's say that. Were you aware of that when you chose this path, or were you just pursuing something that you love?
I was pursuing something that I love. I never looked at it as a male-dominant world. I always looked at it as something that gives me a lot of satisfaction. This is who I am. I can't imagine myself not being a chef. It's my life. So I always went to what I love. I never saw anyone or anything that can bring me down just because I'm a woman. For me, it's not about being a woman and a man. It's about being a chef. In fact, a lot of people tell me, you're one of the best female chefs in Malta. That for me is not a compliment. For me, it's about being one of the best chefs in Malta.
Full stop.
You don't go to a male chef and tell him, you're one of the male best chefs. And that's something that really makes you think about.
Yes.
Are people looking at you just because you're one of the female chefs, or because you're capable in what you're doing as a chef? So I always worked through that goal, where I want to go, what I want to become. And that's what kept pushing me to where I am now. By believing in yourself and not what others think of you, or what others may say about you just because you're a female chef.
I love that. We're into the advice already, and we've only just started. But it's a really pertinent point, that belief in yourself. Nadia, did you always have that belief in yourself when you started out?
Not really. I had to work very hard to be able to break those boundaries. And it doesn't come very natural. I understand what Letizia has just mentioned, that it's true. Equally, myself, my story was, I was interested in growth, both from a personal perspective as well as from a company perspective. So I wanted to be with companies that were interested to break those boundaries, explore different markets, identify new areas of opportunities, giving also a platform for companies to be able and for individuals to be able to grow. However, it wasn't always easy. No, I had to go through mentors. Again, we're going to advise immediately. However, I was lucky enough to have individuals and to have people and to have bosses that actually believed in me at times much more than I actually did. So with a little bit of a nudge, with a little bit of a push, you need that to be able to cross those boundaries and actually believe in yourself and say, okay, I can actually do this.
Yeah.
I am good enough. And that phrase, I still struggle with that to this very date. And you just have to completely continue working on it constantly and continuously.
I love what you've mentioned there, because you've touched on two other subjects that we're going to be covering in this series, which is one is imposter syndrome and the other is mentorship. So please watch those episodes, because they're going to be corkers. And I definitely want to come back, once we've heard Charlotte's story as well, about the people in your life that gave you that support, that believed in you, as you said, because this path can be lonely, and often we need somebody else to believe in us, even if we don't ourselves. But Charlotte, let me come to you first. Do you resonate with what the ladies have said so far? How did you kind of choose your career? Tell us a bit more about that.
Predominantly, I mean, my first degree is in pharmacy, and I come from a family, my father's a pharmacist, so it was a natural thing to study. And pharmacy is predominantly female dominated, so that was very okay. Actually, you stood out at that point you stood out if you were a male doing pharmacy. Right. But then I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to travel overseas for work and to pursue an overseas career. And also your leadership styles and personal development grows with you, with the experience that you have behind you, as well as the opportunities that come along. Timing was extremely important, being at the right place at the right time, or at the wrong place at the wrong time as well, because you learn from every journey in life. And however, as you slowly work your way up to the top, you realize that although healthcare is predominantly female dominated, when you come into the leadership positions, then you start seeing that shift.
Yeah.
Having said that, there's quite a lot of female CEOs in healthcare here in Malta. And that's been, yes, a very interesting shift in the past, I'd say 5 to 10 years, especially in public posts. So yes, I think along the way, my personal development, my passion, and believing a lot in oneself and having the right support system. It wasn't always easy, far from it. There were definitely setbacks in life, but you just have to pursue and persist.
What if you could start your journey over? Start here and start again there. That's how life works, in a circular way. We understand the importance of circles, and that's why you are at the heart of ours. Find your way to wellness with Browns.
Absolutely, and I think we'll come on to that, about that resilience, because there are highs and lows, obviously, in all career paths, and perhaps the ones you've chosen, there might be a few more. But something we began to touch on was the support, the mentorship, the guidance. Was there somebody particular in your life, Letizia, that encouraged you along this path?
Yes, definitely. First of all, the teachers at ITS really believed in me. That for me made a big difference. Then along the way, my parents, obviously, my father especially, at first he was the one that didn't want me to start this career.
Really?
And then it turned the other way around. Yeah. And my boyfriend, he encouraged me, believes in me a lot. One thing that I have to say that really made a difference in my life, when I was in London and I had my first trial at dinner. After my trial, the chef told me, "Why do you want to come here? Why do you want to cook?" And I told him, "Because it's my passion." And he told me, "Passion is not enough." And I was like, "Why? Why is he telling me this?" He told me, "You have to have a lot of drive in you." He told me, because passion, you will lose passion by time when you're tired. When you do 100 hours a week, you won't feel the passion. So with passion, you won't do anything. You need the passion and the drive.
Ooh, you need both of those.
For me, the drive were obviously the people that supported me, that made me believe in myself.
Yeah.
Because after a while, when you're tired, you did a lot of hours, when you're stressed, because obviously it's a very stressful environment, you can't see that passion anymore. You're just working and working and working. So that hit me, and he was right. And thank God I found a lot of people that believed in me, because that made me go towards my goal.
Passion and drive.
Yeah.
You have passion and drive, Nadia? Seems to me like you do. Absolutely.
I agree. You can't be at the top, or you would want to be at the top, and you would want to constantly, or you're constantly interested to learn and to grow without drive or passion. The more you love something, obviously, the more enjoyable it is and it becomes, because there are moments during the trajectory where you actually decide it's easy to give up, and it's easy to say, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Why am I doing this? Why haven't I chosen a path which is a little bit easier than actually this? Because obviously you have to make a lot of choices. You have to make a lot of compromises. You have to actually, it doesn't always come easy. Yeah. If you choose to actually commit at that level, then it's an opportunity cost. So some other things you would have to leave behind. I think it's not the right thing to say that we are able to do everything. I think we were discussing this prior to this show, that we're able to handle everything as women in each and every facet of our lives. I think we have to consciously make decisions and choices.
Yeah.
This is at least what I believe in. However, going back to people that really supported me, I didn't really grow up I didn't really have a family coming from a business environment. So my mother was a nurse, again, healthcare. So we have joining a few dots here. And my father was working in an office environment. So we didn't really have that environment. However, to be fair, my mother was always working. She was the main breadwinner for our family. So she was a great inspiration.
Yeah.
Especially during the time when we were still at school, another two sisters, so we had to work hard to continue our education. Growing up, there were one particular boss. I was at a language school during my summer period where I was supposed to go to the beach, but again, it wasn't an option. We went to dive into work. And actually, there was an opportunity in Cyprus to set up the language school in Cyprus, and he actually bought the ticket for me. I was like, I'm not going to go there for sure. I don't know anything. I don't know the people. I don't know from where to start. I was in my early 20s. So I was scared, really scared.
Yeah.
However, looking back, I think that was the best thing that happened to me ever since. Honestly, it was one of the best experiences in my life. I learned so much. What about resilience? We mentioned resilience, the drive, the language, culture, people, and you learn so much when you dare to look into the unknown a little bit.
Yeah.
So
you were given a gentle nudge.
A gentle nudge. A gentle nudge. That's right.
I'd love to pick up on more of those like pivotal points with you. But Charlotte, first of all, is there somebody in your life, or has there been kind of guiding you, encouraging you?
Very different from Nadia. I come from a different background. So we had a family business, and so I worked from a very young age, running. Yes, people today would call it, what's a child doing working? But I used to enjoy it tremendously, So learn the basics about stock rotation, managing of girls in the pharmacy, sales. Anyway, as a child, we were very much encouraged to become independent. My mother insisted that we were independent girls, myself and my sister. So whatever happened to us in life, we would always be taken care of, by ourselves. Yeah. I was lucky along the way. I met my husband, close to 24 years now of marriage. I was quite young, and he molded me in a way that I was given an opportunity to travel thanks to he wanted to pursue his studies, and that opened my opportunities. I had to start from scratch. My degree was not recognized at all. Yeah, I was like defeated initially because, all those years of studying and finally here I am. Anyway, along the way, it was at times tough. Once I was told, oh, she can stay home and take care of you, but it was in an Arab country. So, it's like makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And I have to say then once I got over the hurdle and I did pursue a pharmacy equivalent qualification in Australia, it was great. I found the right mentors in pharmacy, the right female mentorship as well. I struggled a bit with a culture change because coming from a very Mediterranean background to have an Australian culture where everything is so much calmer, but very, very structured. And I thrived in it. After being given that opportunity, as we moved along various hospitals and states and also countries, you found different people, different opportunities, and people who always give you the words of wisdom, mentorship along the way.
Yeah.
Then when we came to Malta, I realized that I had to give up everything I had done in pharmacy and achieved 10 years. And it opened a new door. Another woman believed in me and gave me an opportunity within healthcare management. The one consistent person throughout who really encouraged me, and it was not easy at times, is my husband.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's the reverse, isn't it? Behind every great woman.
Yeah. I'm very proud of it, actually.
Lovely. And we began to talk about kind of challenges there as well, Nadia. What have been some of yours?
From where do we start? One of the main challenges in Malta that I find is that there is a competency framework. There is a particular role for a person to be on a board. And yes, the first thing, it has to be male and with a finance or a legal background. Those are the preferences.
Wow. Okay.
This is not a written rule.
No,
obviously.
No.
These are, you won't find any of these rules. However, these are challenges or barriers that you need to break. Again, I didn't choose this career or because I'm doing what I want to be doing and to serve as an NED on boards because, similar to Letizia, because I'm a female or because I'm a male. Actually, when I was offered a role to fill in a position because of the quota, I was actually offended, to be honest, because it's not about female, whether you're female or a male. It's about what you're good at. It's about the value that you can add, whether you can add value at that particular board or not.
Yeah.
So those are the first few challenges that you need to get a seat at the table.
Yeah.
You really need to navigate really carefully with the company that will accept you to be part of it, that will actually open up to actually allow you to be part of that board. And then once you get in, then again, it's another journey. And the journey is to find your voice, to make sure, because you mentioned something, Helen, before, which was loneliness.
Yeah.
CEO roles, NED roles, business owners, founders, it's a very lonely journey.
Yeah.
It's a very lonely journey. And equally as an NED, even though you're with your other colleagues, non-exec directors, you're still on your own. There's your reputation on the line.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that obviously you have the opportunity to say what you really believe in. And to be able to question, to be able to probe. And that's quite a challenge in itself. It's not impossible. However, it's a challenge that one needs to be mindful of.
And I think you raised something really important there. None of the women, I'm thinking friends, colleagues, none of us want that token opportunity. It's as you said, Letizia, it's like you're there because you're the best at what you do, not because of what you look like, where you came from, etc., etc. It's nobody wants that tokenism. In fact, that it can feel, as you say, that that's an insult and it can undermine actually your credibility and the skills and the value that you really add. Now, your world's entirely different to business, to NEDs, to office-based. it does remind me a bit, as you were talking about the high pressure and the intensity. It was like, yeah, that kind of feels like the trading floor that was my background as well. But you get heat and tempers and food and smells and the whole kind of simulation. What are some of the challenges aside from the physical ones of being on your feet the whole time, of being in that heat? What other challenges have you faced?
I think the main one is respect.
Ooh.
From what I've been through, I think a woman has to work twice as much to gain respect, unfortunately. People see you as a female.
Yeah.
And you have to constantly work harder than others to gain the respect others have, that works have as much as you do. Okay, it's a stressful environment. As you said, you have to work a lot of hours. So obviously it's a stressful job. But if there's a judge in front of me and tells me do a carbonara plate and there's another chef, we're gonna do a carbonara plate. Mine is not gonna be feminized. And that is one of the main things people can't see.
Yeah.
So yes, in my career, I think I had to work twice as much just to gain that respect. Just to have people look at me as the chef, not as Letizia, as the female chef.
Yeah.
Obviously, you struggle along the way, but that's what makes you stronger. That's what makes you grow up. And that's who made me who I am today, with the struggles I've went through. So it's a blessing in a way. Because if you don't go through rough times, you never be a strong woman. So for me, it's a blessing.
And it builds that resilience, doesn't it?
Yes, definitely, yes.
Ooh, gosh, there's so much in that, isn't there? How have you found that issue of respect on the boardroom or at the board level, C-suite level, Nadia?
I agree with Letizia. You really need to work twice as much or even more to gain that respect, to be able to be seen for who you really are rather than whom you represent.
Yeah.
This is not a self-pity session
No.
by no means. However, let's say things as they are.
Yes.
And this is it. Basically, you need to work hard. You need to build a lot of rapport and confidence building and trust building with your fellow members and whoever you're working with, and make sure that you actually say what you need to say. I actually emphasize on this quite a lot. The respect you need to gain, sometimes you're saying something and there's your counterpart who happens to be a male, and we say exactly the same thing. And the decision, and it's like one gets the acknowledgement whilst I'm like, but I've just mentioned this exactly the same thing, maybe in a different words. And we're always trying, at least myself, I'm always trying to say, okay, what can I do better? How can I improve? How can I rephrase it in a different way, in a different form? What am I missing? So that's is a challenge in itself, and I enjoy that because it's part of my own growth.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't come without its own challenges, for sure.
I'm smiling because if I may share, it reminds me of a time I was at kind of an executive meeting when I was still in banking and I was in America. And I realized I first came across this strategy and I was really perplexed at the time. I said something at the table and everybody, I thought I made a great point. But everybody else, it went. And then an American lady at the other end of the table paraphrased exactly what I just said, but with much to give her a due, with much more gravitas and a bit more slowly. She was obviously a way better public speaker than I was at that time. And everybody's like, yes. And I'm like, did nobody get that I just said that 5 minutes ago? So I'm literally was like, whoa, flashback there. Yeah, interesting. And Charlotte, how have you found kind of dealing with that respect, kind of proving yourself or having to sometimes overprove yourself?
I've just worked hard all my life. I don't know, it's all I know really how to do. But what you need to do is you need to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And yes, you need to work hard. And yes, you need to be knowledgeable. And you need to be good at what you do. You need to, I wouldn't say be an expert, I don't like calling, but you need to know your stuff really well. So that when push comes to shove and when important decisions are made, and in my case, most times it's to deal with vulnerable patients.
Yeah.
Okay, because everything that you take, every decision that's taken at the top can affect the healthcare or the management of a patient directly or very, very indirectly, but it does. So you need to have sound knowledge. And if you have sound knowledge, there might be someone maybe preferred than you or of a different gender, but then you are respected for your opinion, your reputation, and your brand, really. You become your own brand.
Yeah.
And that is what you need to bring to the table. You need to believe in yourself. You need to know your stuff. You need to know your stuff well. And yes, it's good to work your way to the top slowly, because you've been there. You can relate. I can relate to what it means working close to a patient's bedside. You know, I've been there. I used to do rounds twice a day when I used to do clinical pharmacy, and you know exactly what that nurse, that doctor, what's going on in the mind of a junior doctor or a junior nurse, and what's really happening. But then you believe in yourself. You've got your own brand. You've got your integrity and your professionalism, and no one can ever take that away from you.
Ooh, I like that a lot, because it resonated from what you kind of said early on. You had that work ethic instilled in you from very young.
Yes.
By helping out in the family business.
Yes.
And certainly, I don't know if this applies to you, but I definitely feel like it for me, that when I think about my qualifications, I think about that in the same way as you've just said. People can't take that away from you.
Exactly. And there's been times when, someone just removes the carpet from under your legs. It happens. From under your feet. It happens. But you are who you are. You will stand back on your own 2 feet. And it will make you bigger and better. As always, thank God, so far, that's how it's worked out.
Yeah. Have you ever had any moments like that, Letizia? Someone's just taken that carpet away from under you.
Almost every day.
Almost every day.
Ouch.
Yes.
Gosh, that must build resilience.
Yes. Unfortunately, when you're succeeding in your job, people tend to try to take that away from you. Or because they're jealous, or because there's competition, which is a pity.
Yeah.
Because I think, I believe more than another chef is my competitor, we can build something beautiful together. Maybe we cooperate, maybe do a 4-hands dinner. And it's something beneficial for both of us. We learn from each other rather than competing between each other. But yes, unfortunately, along the way, you will find people that try to take what you've built up away from you. In my situation, the kitchen every day is a show day. It's a new service, new people. You have to work hard every day. You have to give good service, good food every day. It's not because you did good yesterday, it's okay to do bad today. Because people will complain, and people will judge you. You can't, if you're trying to satisfy everyone, don't do this job. It's impossible, let alone doing a bad job.
Constant pressure, isn't it?
Yes.
Wow, literally, when you think of it like that, everything you send out from the kitchen, wow.
So you need to be really careful who you employ, who you're literally giving everything you've worked for to others, because obviously we're a team. I can't do everything by my own. You won't succeed. So you need to really put everything out there, believe in other people, and believe that they're not trying to backstab you.
And there is that tall poppy syndrome, they call it, don't they? You begin to rise up, your head comes up above the parapet, and you're doing well, and you're getting support, and you're getting admiration, you're getting recognition and respect, as we've talked about. And then people just come along and whoom, and will take you down. It's not a nice dynamic, but yes, I resonate with that. Do you, Nadia?
Very much so. And in a small island, we have to be extremely careful because news travels very fast. We're very judgmental. So it's easy that we comment and we pass on very good comments. Unfortunately, I only listen to the negative comments. Very rarely positive comments come around. And I would love to be actually, each and every one of us, be able to congratulate each other and acknowledge others' achievements and commitments. equally like Letizia, I love the collaboration. I love collaborating with others because I believe that with certain projects, it's you can provide a better service. However, it's not always the case and it's not always possible because yes, you will find others that do not share the same values and do not share the same purpose. And I think it took me a long while, even though value-wise, and I found quite early, not by design, but actually it was a little bit of a serendipity because others' feedback, it was feedback from others that actually told me, okay, so you really lead very strongly by your values. And it was quite interesting to know. Because I think that is what makes you different than others. That's what makes you who you are. And it's important that you don't negotiate on that.
Yeah.
So if those are, it's strange, but I always work on exit plans. So whatever I do in my life nowadays, whether it's with a client, whether it is, because you need to know when it's important for you to leave.
Ooh, that's a whole different skill, isn't it? Yeah.
Because otherwise you would start compromising. And especially with the role of an NED, you really need to know what are those escalating points where you actually decide that you are going to leave, because that is not something that you accept as a person.
And what I'm hearing from Letizia and from Nadia so far is that their style of leadership is very inclusive. It's very collaborative. Is that the way you operate, Charlotte?
If I had to describe my style of leadership, it would be transformational, which is very much inclusive, communicative, empowering people. But you have to have the right people too, who share the same vision and who share the same values. Okay, so what is important is that vision is shared and communicated well, that mission is also shared and communicated well, and that the theme that works with you shares the same values. So ideally, the values, we not come up with them at the very top and like, oh, these are our values. No, they have to be inclusive. Ideally, we come up with the values together. What do we really stand for? Who are we? Yes, definitely.
And make it clear, and communication is part of that. Communication must be critical in the kitchen.
Yes, all the time.
And you can have the best person with you, but if that person is not a team player, the system collapses.
Exactly. Yes.
Just because you're good, it doesn't mean you're going to get a job.
No. So again, the people that you surround yourself with, that team that you've got around you, the support network.
With the right synergy.
Yeah.
Then it becomes synergistic.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you manage that communication, Letizia? Because it's a whole different, I know from shouting across the trading floor how things can get lost in translation. How is it in a kitchen?
How do I explain it? Timings, a lot of timings. As you said, communication is one of the key for successful kitchen. Obviously, you always have to communicate how long for the table, how long for that main course. There needs to be communication all the time. Yeah. If not, it's a complete disaster. Because obviously we're all on our sections, we're all doing our thing, and you can't always see what others are doing. So you need to communicate, you need to see where others are, how long it's taking to cook something. So obviously service will go smoothly. Yeah. Apart from that, teamwork, it's very important. As they said, you need to have the same goal. If you're not going for the same goal, you can forget it, even if he's the best chef in the world. Yeah. You need to have the same vision and all of your team.
We are curators of culinary excellence. We stock all your favorite eateries with the finest ingredients and complement the best dishes with wines and spirits of distinction. We provide all the brands you love that you never knew you loved. Because the little things in life are the big things. Abraham's, for that something special.
And in the boardroom, Nadia, I'm not going to ask if there's been any shouting matches across the table. I've seen some of those in my time. But I'm sure you echo what the ladies have said so far about communication and clarity and teamwork.
It sounds simplistic, communication, because we kind of use communication all the time. And it's sometimes we ask ourselves, isn't it obvious that we need to communicate? However, what I find, even when I was leading myself, or else when I was part of a boardroom, the lack of communication that there is incredible.
Yeah.
It's palpable. You can actually, you see it, you feel it, and then adding that to cultural differences, because obviously we do have different people with different cultures, different backgrounds, the context. So it makes it all very complicated with different layers. So it's like each and every time at the boardroom, you need to go back to the terms of reference. You need to go back to why we are actually here. What do we want to accomplish? That's why there are different roles. For example, the role of the chair at the board is extremely important, because obviously one needs to navigate and make sure that the narrative is correct, is right during that time.
And come back to the values, as Charlotte said. But also in communication, I just want to dive into communication isn't just about kind of what you're saying. It's something I talk about a lot, listening. We all think because we can hear things and we have two ears that we're all great listeners. It's like the driving analogy, isn't it? Everybody thinks they're an above average driver. Well, by that very fact, we can't all be. And I think, or it's been my experience, that most people think they're great listeners, but very often they're not. How do you manage that communication in your world, Charlotte?
First and foremost, the most important thing is that your vision of where you are heading or where you need to head the company is clear. And it's clear from the board. Okay. Because unless there's that agreement at the very top, then really how can you communicate effectively and not just communicate down? The way I work, both within my current role and in previous roles I've had over the past 10, 15 years, is that I really believe in one-to-one communication with the key managers who report directly, or senior managers who report directly to me. So some people don't believe in that very, very structured methodology of working. But I believe, look, every Monday at 9 a.m. we have this catch-up. Every Tuesday at 2 a.m. I'm meeting the other person, the other key manager. Then it's up to them, they're empowered to take that down to their respective teams. And they know that that is the time dedicated for them if they need to, if they bring up, listen, these are the challenges I've faced since the previous meeting, or whether it's 1 or 2 weeks. And then they know when to communicate back, not within that structure. You know what I mean? When they say this needs to be escalated, cannot wait, Also, communication between key members of the team who are then driving that down within the respective teams. So that team needs to get along. So the individual catch-up meetings, and also then the management meetings of the various companies, I think it's key. And it's not just, we just say communication, because it's a very, very broad word. It has to be effective. And sometimes you can say, listen, it's not working. It's just go back. What's working? What's not working? You have to step back and reflect. That meeting didn't go well today. What went wrong? What do we need to improve? We just need to change it. We just need to sometimes break it apart and start assembling again. It's very important to be able to recognize when you did not communicate well, or when you did not do as well as you wanted to do.
This is extremely interesting what you're actually saying, because the power of reflection is so underrated. Yes. So underrated nowadays. Asking ourselves, are we doing, because it's not doing meetings for the sake of doing meetings or to set up or to meet up. If they're not being effective, then it's useless.
Yeah.
We're just ending up doing so many meetings, and then we're not actually achieving the result. So sometimes it's better if we meet up for 15 minutes rather than, I used to call them alignment sessions.
It's a good word.
It is a
It's a good
great
word.
word.
It's a good word.
And actually, I still use it to date because I used to call them and to be flexible around and alignment. And actually, they used to refer to me as misalignment.
I love that. That's a great title. But to make sure you're on the same page, it's some of the things we said already, you're going in the same directions, that your values are clear, your communication is clear. It's
With all the stakeholders, because of course, once you're at the top, you have a lot of stakeholders, not just the team members.
Yeah.
But you have your board that you have to report
Your
to.
clients.
You have your clients, extremely important suppliers, governments, not only the internal, but also the external stakeholders.
Yes.
So you are responsible, obviously, to report back, and not at the same frequency, but still to communicate the same message or different messages depending on where you're going.
yeah, externally and internally as well. And something that's coming up for me in terms of something you've all touched on is that as you rise up those ranks, as you get to those leadership levels, that teamwork, it's necessary, but it takes management. Is that one of the biggest challenges of being a leader? Kind of managing those teams, getting that teamwork to be cohesive?
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest challenges. Yes, it is one.
Do you ever feel that when you talk to your employees, they feel offended instead of you trying to tell them what's wrong so we can arrange it? Because I find this very frequent. You try and talk to someone not to underestimate him or to tell him that he's doing a bad job, just to arrange things for the better, obviously.
Yeah.
And they feel offended instead of saying, okay, she respects me. Instead of telling me, go home, she's telling me what I'm doing wrong, so
Yeah.
I be better than I was yesterday.
I
They
think
don't take it in that manner.
it depends on the individual. I think it really
Very much
does
so.
depend on the individual. Some people really appreciate constructive feedback. I love constructive feedback. Tell me, how am I doing?
Exactly.
I really
That's
want
how
to
you
know.
can improve.
I really want to know. What can I do better? In your opinion, what am I strong in? What value do I really add? But some people can't handle that. Some people are very insecure. But you're not here to please everybody either.
Yes.
And that's very, very important along the way. If I'm here to please people, then I'm in the wrong job. And I'm not here. So ultimately, you want to be respected for who you are, the value you add, and the leadership that you offer. People who choose to get offended along the way, maybe they're not aligned with the company, they're not aligned with the goals. Maybe some workplaces bring the best out of you, some places bring the worst out of you. And there's a place for everybody in the right environment.
I understand that it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because obviously we live in an economy where finding the right people and the right resources is extremely challenging. So obviously, as leaders, we want to make sure that we retain as much as possible the good people that we have and we make that relationship work. However, once you try and you exhaust all your creativity in how to give feedback and you're still not managing, then similarly, it's like a decision needs to be taken whether we're a good fit, the right fit or not. But it very much depends. It's very personal of how to give feedback. In fact, there are so many books that if it was easy, everyone would find it easy to give feedback. It's not that easy because not everyone receives it in the same manner.
And maybe it's an industry-related thing as well. There's definitely the different generations and the way you have to deal with different generations in different ways and manners, different individuals. And there are egos as well. So it's to be very careful there.
Big problem, yes.
Yeah, so
That's something we've all had experience of, dealing with the egos, isn't it? Absolutely. It makes me think, though, at that leadership level, we kind of touched on loneliness. I'd like to delve into that a little bit more. But do you need to get comfortable with the fact that you may be unpopular at times? You may have to give messages that aren't wanted or aren't kind of accepted, but you still have to stay on track, steering that ship, going forward, goal in sight. And yeah, that doesn't always mean everybody's going to like every decision that you make or every word that comes out of your mouth.
Well, obviously, my goal is to be always consistent. and to always give a good service. So if someone is not in that line, obviously you need to speak up. The thing that I always say is when I say something, it's not because I'm the chef. It's because I want the best for the business.
Yeah.
And I tell them, if you're here in my kitchen, I believe that all of you want the same thing. We're here because we love what we're doing. So let's transmit it on the plate of the client. It's not just about eating out. It's about giving them the experience. If we're not giving them that, what are we doing here? So
bringing them into your vision and what you're creating, and
yes,
it's why you've chosen them in the first place, because you believe that they can do that and they can help you create that.
exactly. Yes, it's my identity. Yeah. What I'm giving to my clients on plate, it's who I am. So that's very important for me.
Yeah. That's very much what I'm hearing when you were speaking, like this chef that is so part of your identity.
Yes, definitely. Yes, it's who I am.
Yeah.
I was telling to Nadia, I don't really believe in balance because this is my life. Work is my life. So for me to be on top with the very best, you need to sacrifice things. So you can't really balance sometimes your life. You need to focus on one thing. And for me, that is my work.
Yeah. To make some tough choices.
Yeah.
Whether that be exactly the choices that you're making with your life, your personal life, but even hiring and firing and, yeah, and making yourself, that can make you unpopular, right?
You're not, as a leader, you're not there to be liked.
Yeah.
And I think that was the most difficult. Obviously, I had to wrap my head around that because ultimately you're there for the company to make sure that you're there for the greater and common good, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it is a difficult, no one teaches you, especially a CEO. There are loads of courses about managers and even an ED how to be an ED, how to become a CEO. I actually had to Google it.
Whoa. Wow.
Because it doesn't, no one prepares you to go into that role, into that job. It's very much your personality, it's very much what you know, it's very much your knowledge, who you are, and how you develop your leadership skills to make sure that you orchestrate all these different things together. From a financial perspective, because obviously you're responsible to P&L, to the board, to be aligned with the strategy of the board and everything around that. However, taking the tough decisions, yes, you're not there to be liked, but you will be respected for that. So in the beginning, yes, you will create some waves and rifts, and you will only be respected and trusted that you will be taking the tough decisions when there is a challenging time, when you actually take those tough decisions.
Yeah.
Even when you have to hire, when you have to fire, when you have to let go of a few people that unfortunately would have been with you for a very, very long time as well. And they would have had a long tenure with the company. Those are the toughest decisions, both at a personal level as well as from a company perspective, because there are loads of emotions attached to that. However, when you do that, honestly, it's when you as a leader expect change then from that point onwards, because then everything else starts moving in the right direction.
So you need to be given that clear direction. How do you cope with those difficult decisions, Charlotte?
I think the way I cope is by having the information in hand. You need to have all the information available so that you can make the right decision. At least the information available at that time.
Yes.
I'm a pharmacist, I'm scientific. I believe in evidence-based medicine. Is this drug good for you? Yes or no? What are the side effects? Numbers needed to treat to get the outcomes you require. It's black and white. In practice, it's not as easy as that. It's not as black and white. But at this time, given this moment in time, I have this information in hand. I've gathered the information that is available and necessary. And hand on heart, I will hold my head up high and I will make that decision and I will stick to it. Even though it's hard. There's emotion. You know that you might be affecting a family temporarily. You try to minimize as much as possible. You try to preempt it as well, because it's not something that's happened overnight, unless it's some black swan event. And,
Totally.
but listen, with performance reviews, listen, this is what happened. This feedback has been consistent or not. If you haven't listened to that feedback, then it's not really the company's fault or my fault or your manager's fault that it's come to this. But these decisions are extremely important. And even sometimes I drag my feet because I know what I'm going to hurt someone.
Yeah.
But you have to become very thick-skinned and make the best unbiased decision, because there's a lot of bias and a lot of opinions and there's a lot of drama. You need to have the right information at hand at the time and make the best decision. It may be wrong, but at that moment in time, with the information that you have available and looking at the overall picture, that is a decision that you have to take and you have to stick to it.
And the drama, you mentioned the drama
Yes,
there.
a lot.
Is that part of the challenge of leadership as well?
Yes. I mean, you're working with people, and people. Some people love drama; they thrive in drama. Some people have no patience for drama. You get the different personalities at the different levels. But yes,
I can imagine the kitchen getting quite dramatic.
Yes. Yes. I hate drama, by the way.
Same
I
here.
hate it.
Such a waste
For
of
me,
time.
if you have to say something, say it. There's no going around it. Just get it over with saying, and we're back in service. But obviously, there are a lot of characters. And as they said, you need to see what character people have and try and talk differently with each and every one of them.
Yeah.
As she said, when you take the decision, it's very important that you stick to it, because I believe it's when you don't stick to what you said when you lose the respect. When people see that you said something and then you didn't stick to what you said, you will lose them.
You're nodding in agreement there, Nadia.
It's because it's important to stick to your own decisions. Once a decision is taken, even if it's wrong,
Yes.
you would, at that, with the information you have, which is a very good, valid point,
Yeah.
then you would have to stick to the decision, because otherwise you lose the respect. As much as you gain it, whatever you've gained, you would lose it in a minute. So this weefy-woofy
Yeah.
bit of a nifty decision making, it doesn't work.
On the other hand, I find it very easy to say, listen, I've made a mistake. That day on that, made a mistake at this level. I really have no qualms saying it. No, I think it's extremely important. I'm a human being. I'm surrounded, And yes, sometimes along the way, I've made a few mistakes and I've learned from them, And it's important to say, listen, the decision we took, even collectively as a team that day, could have been better.
Yeah.
Wrong, it could have been better. We could have, but everyone's wiser in hindsight as well. But what did we learn? What did we learn as a team, as a group?
And do you think that can create actually being able to admit you're wrong, or a different decision, maybe a wiser decision with the hindsight, as you say, that could be made? Do you think that contributes to that respect as well?
I think that being humble is key. I think being humble is key. It's not just about the decision making and you say, listen, I've done something wrong. I mean, if I'm walking into the office and there's a piece of tissue, whatever, on the floor, I'm the one. And people have walked, past this tissue. I'm the one who'll pick it up and throw it away. And say, if I'm doing this, and I really do it from the bottom of my heart, I really have no qualms, then I expect everybody to do it as well. I'm leading by example. And if I say I'm sorry, then I'm telling people that it's okay to say you're sorry. That it's okay. As long as you've, at that point in time, with the right information you had, you did the very best that you could. And not everyone has the same capabilities as well. But that person has given his or her utmost.
I love that brought up that humility. It's something that I, certainly in the people that have guided me or the leaders that I've worked with, it's a value that I really admire, and really, it makes somebody more relatable when they have that humility, when they can take sorry. I actually think that's a real skill, being able to say sorry.
It's very easy. You just have to get used to it.
Do you think as women we're better at that, though?
I don't know. Not necessarily, no. Not necessarily, no. But at the end of the day, listen, I've worked in healthcare for a very long time. I've seen some very, very high-flying people who ultimately, at the end of the day, when they're in a hospital or, on their deathbed, you realize that at the end of the day, we are all human, we are all at the same level, and you need to be humble in life and appreciative. Very important.
Oh, that's lovely. I feel like that's rounding us off nicely into, for the listeners and the viewers, I really want to leave them with some advice. You are all trailblazers in your own right. And we've talked about so many themes in there today: communication, teamwork, respect, timing even. What's one thought that you'd really like to leave the listeners or the viewers with today, Letizia?
To never give up and never look back. Always look forward where you want to go. It's useless looking back to what happened or what's wrong you did. Just look forward and always focus on your goal, and you will make it for sure. If you work hard, obviously, you'll make it.
Love that. Thank you. Nadia.
Whatever you can achieve it in life. It's with hard work. It comes with hard work. Yes, knowledge. Surround yourself with great people. There are great people out there that can help, that are ready to support. So focus on what you really want, not on what you don't want. And if you focus on that, then things will happen. Things will unfold.
Ooh, I think that's a great point, actually. That we very often focus on, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. But actually, it's a different mindset, isn't it? It's a different perspective to look on, well, what is it that you want? Or get clarity around, what is it that you want to go for?
Because if you focus on what you don't want, that's what you're attracting. That's what you're focusing on. That's your energy, what
Yeah.
you're focusing your energy on.
Yeah.
So you really have to focus on what you really want,
Yeah.
not the other way around.
Yeah, what is it? Attention, energy flows where attention goes. That whole. And Charlotte, what would you like to leave the listeners, the viewers with
I
today?
think you need to invest in yourself, okay? In oneself. So believing in yourself, educating yourself really well, being really good at what you do. So that push comes to shove, you are knowledgeable, extremely knowledgeable in what you do. You need to be extremely aware of your surroundings. Emotional intelligence is extremely important, okay? Self-reflection is really important. How did we go? What can be done better? Always learning. You must always learn. The moment you stop learning is the day you start slowly, going down.
Yeah, and that's something I'm, again, a theme through all of you is that continual learning, that continual self-improvement. I feel like you just dropped the EQ, the emotional intelligence kind of like in there at the end. And I feel like that could be a whole new show. Maybe we'll add that to the list for series 2. Ladies, thank you so much. I'm so excited for the listeners, the viewers, to watch that, to hear your stories, to take those lessons, to understand and really take those lessons on for themselves. So I would just like to say cheers to you and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.